Okay, thank you everyone so much for joining us for this Moving Worlds Impact Team brief informational and Q&A. We really like to use this time for the opportunity for those considering joining the Impact Team program to ask the team really anything you want. We'll take questions related to the meaning of life, also take it to the definition of experteering, and of course, the questions that we probably like the most at this particular time are related to the workings and outcomes of the Impact Team program. My name is Mark Horshevsky. I'm the co-founder and CEO of MovingWorlds.org. I'm joined by Cole Hoover, who's the director of our Moving Worlds Institute, and Millie Vo, who is really a little bit of everything. She joined us as a fellow. She's now the lead on the Impact Teams program, and kind of the master miracle worker. She's even been called a unicorn at times. So we're really excited to tell you just a little bit about the Impact Teams program. And really, we've been peppered with so many questions that we're going to fly through just a couple slides and then hand it over to answer those questions that have come to us across social media and email. Of course, for those of you on the actual webinar, you can also fire off questions using the chat box and Q&A feature at any time. So just by quick virtue of an intro of what led to the Impact Teams program, Moving Worlds has been operating and growing the experteering movement now for well over 5 years. And in those 5 years, we've helped support over 500 people in finding skills-based matches around the world. Over the last 3 years, we've been working with corporations like Microsoft to attach transformative learning experiences around their own experteering projects with assessments, training, goal setting, reflection, critical conversations, and then a debrief process. And the learnings that we've learned in scaling up that program to support hundreds of matches a year, we've had the opportunity to publish in Harvard Business Review and Forbes and Sanford Social Innovation Review and more. And we're so excited because last year, we built up the team and added the right people to be able to take some of these incredible programs that were previously only available to our corporate partners and make that accessible to anybody from anywhere. So we've had people join our Impact Teams and Institute programs from almost every continent. I don't think we've touched Antarctica yet. And it's just an incredible program, and we're so excited to have it now available to everyone. And of course, it keeps evolving. If you've seen our blog post on what's new in 2018, you've seen that we've made some improvements to both extend the learning and also make more connections into our community and give you more access to some pretty incredible speakers. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cole, who's going to walk you through a couple quick slides in just a couple minutes, and then we'll hand it over to questions. So Cole, over to you.
Sweet. Thanks, Mark. So again, as Mark said, I am the director of the Moving Worlds Institute, and that means that I help to run our 6-month fellowship program and also work on everything curriculum-based and educational at Moving Worlds. One part of my role, though, really relates back to this slide. I think something that we all work to really hold space for. Many of us have been entrepreneurs. Many of us have taken risks to start something in the social impact space. And one of the things that we've learned about more than anything is that transition or this kind of dive. So as you can see in this beautifully artist-rendered image, what we do in the Impact Teams and the Institute and throughout a lot of our programming is help people to not only acknowledge kind of how their feet are just stuck in this comfort zone, but also to help them to take that gap between the comfort zone and this magical sea of dreams. I think we all know that there's these better opportunities out there. There are these greater chances for us to live a more fulfilled and aligned life, but there's that real fear gap in between. And so in addition to teaching a lot of hard skills and touching on themes that will help you to excel in the impact field, we also really address the transition, the scary stuff, the things that personally maybe are challenging you to make this next opportunity a real one. So we love to hold space for this transition and know that you will not be the only one diving off this grassy cliff. That's one of the real reasons for the cohort. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the pieces of the cohort in the next slide, but wanted you to know that we're here to help you make that dive. Mark, if you take it to the next slide. So what is the impact team? So the impact team is a cohort-based experience that includes a bunch of people going and doing experteering in the field. And so I'm guessing that a lot of people listening in and watching have some familiarity with experteering, but really for those who don't, a quick primer is this is skill-based volunteering. It's helping people to take their expertise, take their unique skills and talents, and bridge them to connect to organizations all across the world who have needs and assets that link up really, really well with those skills, with those expertise. So the impact teams are a cohort of people who are going and doing their own experteering, but at the same time, they're learning together, they're supporting each other, they're creating accountable relationships, and they're all working to build a better social impact network kind of in unison. So throughout the time of the impact teams, you'll be learning new theories. These are ideas like, structures of social impact organizations, social entrepreneurship themes, human-centered design, entrepreneurship, making big changes in big companies, but from an impact vantage. Cross-cultural awareness and how that applies to both experteering and additional jobs in the field. You'll also be expanding your network. Through the impact teams, we have guest webinars where industry leaders are coming and sharing some of the amazing things that they're doing within their organizations, big learnings from the field, and also hopefully from that giving you a little bit of an inspiration to connect the dots between what you're doing in the world right now and what you could be doing in a more impact-oriented field. The next piece is one of the most important parts of the whole cohort, and that's the accountability. So in both our institute and in our impact teams, we focus on accountability groups. And these are pairings and small groups of individuals who will be with you throughout the experience to help you to not only set goals, but more importantly, to reach them. I think we all know that having close people in our lives help us to recognize maybe our blind spots, recognize the things that we're great at, and find ways to maximize all of them. That's what happens in these accountability groups that we support you with as a part of impact teams. One of the real great outcomes and outputs of the experience is just getting real about how your experience in the field can make an impact. Not only do we want to help you to have an amazing experience with the social enterprise that you're paired with, but also we want you to be able to tell the story of what your impact was and help you to take those learnings forward as you search for maybe a transition into another impact-related job or maybe a more impact-focused role within your current company. We help you to tell the story and really encapsulate what it means to make an impact with your skills. And then finally, in our learning journey, we believe that reflection is key. So we provide you with tools, resources, and guides that help you to not only reflect on your impact, reflect on kind of the internal changes that you've made, the learnings that you have been able to accumulate, and then finally the network that you've grown throughout your impact team experience. So at the end of your impact team, you actually will have documents and guides and different things that you can go back to and reference that help you to tell your story moving forward on the impact that you're able to create. So these are just some of the features of the impact team that we're really, really proud of and love to talk more about. On the next slide, we have some of the kind of additional things that you'll be doing spread out on a timeline that really touch on and go into some of the detail of some of the features and pieces that I was just talking about. And so at this point, we'd love to keep the slide up for reference, for you to poke at and ask any questions about things you're seeing. But in general, we wanted to keep our section of this as short as possible so we could leave it open for as many questions as you may have. So with that, would love to just open it up to the room for any questions, either referencing this slide or anything else that we've talked about. And would kick it over to Millie if any questions are coming up or if there's any frequently asked questions we'd love to touch on.
All right, thank you, Cole. As a reminder, you can submit your questions via the chat box or the Q&A feature on Zoom at the bottom of your window. And with that, I actually have a question here. This one is probably geared towards Mark. At the beginning of the webinar, you talked a little bit about the evolution of Impact Team and the recent changes that have been made. And so this question here is, this person asks, I got an email talking about MovingWorlds revamping the Impact Team and removing themes from future cohort. Can you speak more about this, and how does this impact me in terms of preparing for my application, and what types of projects or experience I can expect?
Sure. Yeah. And so maybe I'll break that into 3 responses, if that's okay. So yeah, why move away from like our theme-based impact teams to how that influences maybe your application, and then third, the type of projects you might get. So the first one, why do that? So what we learned is that a lot of people were voting for new impact team themes. Like the variety was so vast and the votes so spread out that we realized that we would get to a place of maybe only having like one impact team every year or two that would relate to a specific theme. So say somebody who really, really cared about animal rights, or even child education, or rural poverty or agriculture, or if they were more skills-based, like business strategy versus marketing versus sales versus engineering versus now increasingly people interested in the effects of like blockchain and the cloud. There were so many different requests for the number of different impact teams that the likelihood that an impact team would relate to you was just going to be too infrequent. And so what we decided to do is let's create a generic impact team in the same way that our institute and our corporate programs involve people from all different skill sets and motivated by all different causes. We've seen a lot of value in having a more diverse group join together, both in terms of helping create better networking opportunities for all, and then be also adding more diversity, both cultural diversity, skill diversity, and network diversity, which what we see benefits everybody, not just in terms of learning during the program, but also in terms of connections afterwards. So it really made the most sense to create an impact team structure that was related to everybody, to their skills, and to the causes they cared most about. Now, when it comes to the types of projects you'll get, what this actually does is also allow us to customize each for you more. So instead of trying to force you into a specific impact area or skill area, you actually get to come forward and say, these are the skills I have. These are the skills that I want to learn and stretch. This is the cause and industry area I want more exposure in. And these are the causes that I care the most about. And we actually use that to still help every individual find their own unique expertise project. So as opposed to limiting some people to a specific cause and skills, this generic program allows everybody to actually zero in more on a project and learning program that's more specific to themselves. Now, from an application perspective, our biggest tip here is what we're looking for is strength in diversity. So as you submit your application, to the extent that you can let us know what unique perspectives you bring, what connections you bring, and what insights and energy you bring that will help benefit people regardless of sector that they come from. That's really what we're looking for, to ensure that we have a nice and diverse cohort that will really help everybody lift each other up. Millie, does that answer the question okay?
I think so. Thank you so much. So the next question, and this is, I'm grouping quite a few questions here because we have a number of people considering the program who are full-time professionals working full-time jobs, who are there in graduate school, and they're full-time students. And so this question, to highlight this specific category of individuals, is what are expectations for participation and what is the workload like? I'm a full-time professional / full-time student right now, and I'm concerned about my ability to juggle the work along my job and school along with the curriculum. Ko or Mark, which one of you would like to tackle this?
Sure. Yeah, I can dive in. So I think one of the things that we really celebrate with both the Institute and the Impact teams are the diversity of our cohorts, and that is diversity from a lot of different angles. And one of those is the difference between people who are they've already dove and they're in that transition and they have some free time to invest in other programs, and then people who are still within their current role for a variety of reasons, and they're looking for something to supplement it and help them to start that lean. We actually not only accommodate people who are still within a full-time role, but we really celebrate that diversity that we get from people offering different perspectives from their working environments. So we try to make the programs as flexible as possible. We have a couple things that are required, like the field placement, to have meaningful impacts. We believe that around 2 weeks is the minimum of time that can be done to go out in the field and connect with an organization and have a meaningful impact. But online and learning together on Slack, we have opportunities for comments and curriculum to be posted. We have webinars that are recorded like this one that you can watch at any time. So as long as you can commit a couple hours a week to dig in, be a part of conversations, offer your perspective, complete different workbooks, it's really something that you can do on your own time. And something that we found to be really manageable for a variety of busy working professionals, some with families, some with other travel schedules who've done these programs before. Millie, does that get at the question?
Indeed. Thank you so much for elaborating there. So this question here talks about the expatriation component of the program. Based on the website, it says that we're required to be in the field for 2 to 8 weeks. Can you talk a little bit more about why there's a range, and does this mean I can go for a shorter period? I'm not sure if I can get as much time off from work.
Yeah, and we see that a lot in both our corporate and open institute and impact team programs. What's the most important thing to us is that you get immersed into a project that stretches you to learn and grow. And so the more time you can go, the better. So we'll always push you. We internally, Millie, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Internally, like, people have just gone for 1 week and we have found projects that have worked for that, but we will push as hard as possible to get you into the field for at least 2 weeks. And things that we've even done to help people do that is how to, like, guides to help you actually get your employer to potentially even support with extra time off, or at least allow it. And in a few cases, employers have actually even kicked in a little bit of budget to help people participate in the programs. So I think the really 2 layers there are, look, the more time you can go, the better. MovingWorlds is here to actually help you navigate that if you do have questions of, like, how can I talk to my boss or my HR group or to my employer? But at the end of the day, like, we will work around you, and people have gone for shorter periods of times. Just for us, the most important thing is that you're still going to learn in that experience. We really take a case-by-case basis on that.
And to add on an extra layer to what Mark said right there, there are actually a number of impact team members who have chosen to go for longer than the required amount. And I think we currently have one person from a past cohort that is still expatriating in the field and is possibly in her 4th month right now. And so the idea with the expatriating component and the impact team curriculum as a whole, though, is that, we're flexible and we're designed for full-time working professionals, including graduate students. And so with that in mind, when you join an impact team and when you're trying to figure out an expatriating placement, you'll actually be working with our matching team to identify any factors that could influence when or how long you're able to go expatriating for. So for example, you will let the matching team know if you have conferences that you're required to attend for work, or if you have team retreats, or if you need to give your employers 2-week notice for your trip, etc. And so all this information you would give to our matching team, and with that, they'll work with you on identifying a expatriating placement that will align with your timeline and your schedule. So we have that wide range to enable people to schedule around their existing working schedules. And if you have any additional questions regarding the matching process or the expertise, feel free to contact us at impactteams@movingworlds.org. And with that, I'm going to hop on to our next question, which kind of ties into the earlier question, Mark, that you answered regarding the evolution of Impact Team. And this person wants to know more specifically, what do you look for in an Impact Team member? I do not have a lot of experience working with nonprofits or with social impact organizations. Will I still be able to join?
Yeah. Do you want me to take that, or Cole, do you want to take that one?
Go for it. You got it.
Yeah, so I would say just over the majority of our people don't have prior work experience with social impact organizations. So for those that do, we see this as an opportunity for them to maybe expand beyond. As an example, we've had people come from traditional education or traditional large nonprofits, even smaller nonprofits or foundations, but have been using the impact teams model as a way to tap more into social entrepreneur models and more self-sustainable revenue models to understand the growth of that engine as a way to create change. But yeah, I would say the majority are actually coming from pure like for-profit organizations. Many have engaged with social impact in some way, whether that's been through giving activities or volunteering, even if that was something in the past. But we really use the experience to get everybody up onto a shared definition of what does social impact mean. There's still the space for people to take their own ownership and definition of that. But definitely in our onboarding and our education content, you'll see that it really relates to everybody. And we do less about making sure everybody has the same historical context and more about this is where the social impact industry is going. This is where governments, where nonprofits, where social enterprises, where startups, where corporations are going to create social impact, and we get everybody on the shared understanding of that. So past working background really doesn't influence your ability to take a lot from this program.
Thank you, Mark. And I also just want to add, for us, it's the passion and the commitment to positively impacting the world at large that's important to us and to the success of an impact team. So you don't need to have a background in nonprofit or social impact to join a team. We were talking earlier about diversity and how important it is to a successful team makeup. And so our goal with Impact Team is to bring people together from diverse industries, backgrounds, cultures, etc., to collaborate because it is in this intersection of these differences that innovation is born. And at the end of the day, whatever your skills and background are, the world of social impact needs it. Through the Impact Team will help you to examine your professional skills and determine how to best leverage them for impact, while at the same time developing new skills to complement your existing ones. And so with that, I'm actually going to hop over to our next question. This one is regarding the expertise experience as well as sorry, let me just dive straight into it. So regarding the expertise experience, this person asked, I read somewhere in your website that one spouse may be welcome to travel with you during the infill expertise. What about older children or dependents ages 9 to 17?
Sure. So the short answer here is anything is possible. And indeed, we have seen people travel with spouses as well as with children. It's definitely on a case-by-case basis. What the Moving Worlds team does to figure out is the spouse looking to expertise? And if so, what will the children be doing during that time to be kept busy? Or if the spouse is not expertising and is hanging out with the children, then that will just create a slightly different matching criteria. I think what happens in any expertise match is during the planning process, you get introduced to a representative from a hosting organization in the field. And during that time, you're able to dive deeper and ask questions related to, can you help me find a place that could house us all? What could people who are not expertising be doing during the time that I'm busy expertising? So it is possible. Now, to be also honest, it is rare, and I think it's rare for a number of reasons. One, the local organizations typically that we work with don't have resources to host an entire family. That's not to say that there isn't a local Airbnb or hotel or booking accommodation where the organization or where you and your family could live. It's just that the local organization itself isn't often able to host that many people, maybe within their own offices or within their own workflow. I think the other thing is and we actually see this more often, is people go on their own, even if they do have a spouse and children, and that's part of like that immersive learning. So definitely, depending on case, it's a question that we recommend that you grab time with Cole or Millie or myself before application, just to chat through a little bit more. And based on those, based on your own unique circumstances, we might be able to say, yep, here's a previous anecdote of how that's worked well, or maybe that's something that isn't as ideal for this program. So long story short, anything is possible, and we've definitely seen it. But the addendum to that is it definitely depends on everybody's unique case, and we're happy to talk whether it's family or work or anything. We're happy to chat with you one-on-one in advance of application to make sure that the program's a good fit.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So our next question dives into the more logistics aspects of the program. And this person would like to know, what kind of costs could I be looking at? Is there any assistance provided?
Is that Cole? Do you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So there is, as you can see on the website, there is a tuition for the program. And so the tuition is about $1,000. The one thing that does not include is the travel to get to your expertarian site. And this includes a lot of the things that you'll see on this slide directly. So assessments, all the workbooks and guides and different things that will kind of help get you set for the experience. It also includes the connection to industry leaders and all of the really, really awesome networking pieces of the Impact team. To the second part of the question for support, we do offer limited scholarships for the program. And this is on a need basis. And so when applying for the Impact team, there's also an opportunity to apply for a scholarship for the program. So there is some support, and the tuition is about $1,000. And you can see more information on the Impact team's website. You can go down to the section that is program costs, and that gives you more details of how it all breaks down.
And to ladder on to Cole's response right there, in terms of scholarship opportunity, when you are applying for the scholarship, please make sure you submit it by the deadline, which for the next cohort would be February 2nd, midnight PST. So make sure that you complete your application for the cohort in addition to the scholarship application. Your scholarship application won't be considered without a completed program application. So remember that. And finally, we actually also have a number of expertarian projects that are sponsored by our awesome partners. Right now, the types of external projects that are sponsored would vary, but right now the ones that are sponsored are actually based in Latin America, specifically aimed towards expertarians who have a proficiency of Spanish. We can share the different opportunities after this webinar is over for you to review and see whether or not you qualify. And so if you do qualify for one of these expertarian projects, travel-related costs will be offered by our partner organization. However, you will still have to pay for the tuition, which is a separate component of it. So we'll make that information available to everyone afterwards. Feel free to ping me if you have any more questions about those opportunities, by the way. And to our next question, this one takes us back to the Impact Team curriculum. So this, and you talked a little bit about this earlier, Cole, but could you talk more about the Impact Team curriculum as well as what I can expect to walk away from the program with?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that one of the important pieces, and I chatted a little bit about this in the last question, So included in your tuition are a grouping of assessments. This is really how we get to know you, and we also create a foundation that we build upon throughout the whole experience. So these are assessments like the imperative assessment. And this is a way of understanding better how you find fulfillment and you connect with your purpose through work. It's this amazing assessment that helps you to be more purpose-oriented in all of the projects and work that you're doing. We also start out with the Aperian Globe Smart assessment. So this is a way of understanding kind of cultural awareness and different cultural preferences between you and the placement partners that you'd be working with. So we start out with some of these tools as a way to just get a baseline and an understanding of you and your unique needs and assets. We then build on through our online training with a curriculum in human-centered design. So this is digging into human-centered design theories, themes, and methodologies, and more than anything, trying to equip you with tools that you can use out in the field, because human-centered design, like a lot of our different pieces of the curriculum, are better learned through experience than through theory. So we do everything we can to not only provide you with tools and concepts that you can understand and test, but then also an environment in the impact team to reflect on how they went, to get ideas from other impact team members of different uses that you could take, and then also little experiments that you can run moving forward to keep building on your understanding and your impact. We also have a core of trying to understand the social impact space, and this is either through connections to industry leaders, presentations that we do on the history of the social impact space, and then also really digging in directly into social enterprises, how they function, kind of getting under the hood of them to figure out what are all the pieces that make them work, and what are the pieces that they have that prepare them uniquely to have an impact out in the world. So those are some of the more kind of theme-based things that you're going to be learning. In addition to that, we really try to prepare you to set goals, kind of put assumptions out there around how you can use your skills for greater impact and how you can find a career that's super impact oriented, and then use the accountability groups and the network that we provide to help you to validate your assumptions and reach your goals and learn throughout the experience about what you need and what are the steps moving forward. So it's both that kind of theme-based learning, tool-based learning, and then also personal awareness and kind of personal transformation that we try to facilitate. So those are some of the main pieces of the curriculum.
Thank you, Cole. That's actually a great segue into the next question, which is about the industry leaders and the network that's available to impact team members. And so this person wants to know a little bit more about what types of industry leaders have participated in past impact team, and the people who are part of the network. So Mark, could you shine a little light onto that?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, first I'll toot Cole's horn first. We didn't really go into backgrounds too much. Cole is the director of our institute, but he's also a previous social enterprise founder for a microfinance organization that works across West Africa, and is also an educator at the University of Washington School System on social entrepreneurship. So we have Cole, who's in-house and part of that and helps lead. He's also certified with the Imperative Purpose Assessment. Other industry leaders that we've brought on is Erin Ewert, who is a social impact career coach, helping people both tell their stories, but also think through leading methodologies on how to build network and how to actually connect into the best places to find where your next career opportunities are. And then every impact team from there has varied since then in terms of the different speakers that we brought in. Most recently, we heard from one of the leaders in the UN Global Compact who works on the Women Empowerment Principles. So it's an organization within the UN that helps build the case to elevate gender equality issues really across the globe, and does some really interesting work and research and campaigns to get businesses more highly engaged. We've also had other social enterprise leaders, impact investors, and others all join in to share leading practices and insights. And something that's new for 2018 that we'll be rolling out is as our alumni community is growing larger and larger, there's increasing demands for more like alumni specific content. So occasionally that means even having the opportunity to jump in on other cool guest speakers or authors that are leading webinars for some of our other programs. So yeah, it's a diverse group. It's an interesting group. And I think one of the things that's really special about our webinars is the presentations are pretty short, and then it operates, well, similar to this session in that there's a ton of time for Q&A, but I would say better than this session because instead of like a text Q&A, like we're all just on a video feed together, everybody's in the same room, and that you can interact directly with some of these industry leaders to ask questions and have conversation. And it's quite common where the industry leaders will actually kind of pose their biggest challenges and turn it back for like real-time discussion and casework. So it's definitely a highlight and a very highly rated element of all our programs.
Thank you, Mark. So this next question is related to the Impact Team virtual community. The question is, I see on your website that the Impact Team is completely virtual. Can you elaborate on what a day-to-day experience of an Impact Team member is like on a virtual team?
Millie, could you share a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
I think that one's back to you, Millie.
Wonderful. Okay, so regarding the virtual community, so because our Impact Team members come from all over the world, for example, this current one comes from actually 6 different time zones. And so we all congregate on Slack. Slack is our primary community. If you're not familiar with Slack, when you join an Impact Team, we'll do a quick run through of how to utilize the community. And then with that right there, because our program is designed to be completely flexible, you can chime in, like Cole mentioned earlier, based on your schedule and availability throughout the entire experience. There will be a community manager, most likely myself, who will facilitate the discussions as well as like the learning and the reflection component of it. In addition to that, you'll also be assigned an accountability buddy who will be working with you primarily to go over a lot of like the discussions and the reflections and then sharing it with the community at large. In addition to the community, which is mostly through text, we also have the weekly or bi-weekly live webinar trainings that Cole or one of the industry leaders will be leading you. And you have the ability to join it live or to watch recording of it afterwards and then chime in on the Slack community afterwards. And so we recognize that a lot of our Impact Team members have pretty chaotic schedules with work, with family, with school, or their side hustle, etc. And so it truly is designed such that you can hop onto the community whenever you have time to spare and then share your insights, whatever reflections you have based on the material. And although we are technically a virtual team, what we've seen in past cohorts is that Impact Team members, you guys somehow find a way to meet each other in person all over the world. Often, there is like a shared passion for social impact. There is a shared passion for the nonprofit world or social entrepreneurship. So you guys seem to find a way to connect at similar conferences or talks and lectures. And when Impact Team members are expatriating abroad in neighboring countries, they find ways to connect with each other in real life as well. I actually want to also share a quote from a past Impact Team member about her experience. So at the end of every week, we used to do something called a high and low, where Impact Team members would share what their highs and their lows are, because we want to be there to support you when things are difficult, but we also want to celebrate your victories as well. And so this Impact Team member said, "My high honestly has been digging into all of the Impact Team Slack conversations and material. It's been hard for me to consistently keep up with all of the conversations in the past month, but having enough time to do it this week really made me appreciate this community so much more." And so as you can see, people hop on and work on the learning materials at a different pace, but at the end of the day, it's all about the participation. And so with that, I'm actually going to hop onto the next question here. And taking it back to the industry leader, this question says, it seems like there's a significant focus on entrepreneurship and social enterprise based on industry leaders and impact placements, et cetera. Is there also a focus on policy?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So there is a focus on governmental institutions, as well as nonprofits, as well as for-profits, in how they are embracing social entrepreneurship concepts. And so, like as an example, we had a speaker from the UN who spoke about how some of the concepts in terms of how emerging organizations are leveraging social entrepreneurship and also looking at the sustainable development goals are looking into the future as to what is to come. So while we don't get into actually any actual policy changes, we do get into like intergovernmental initiatives like the Sustainable Development Goals. And we also will share practices of how organizations might be building connections with policy institutions. Now that said, that's for the existing programming. For you individually, that's something that might be interesting from a case-by-case basis in terms of what you're hoping to learn in the program. Experteering projects that actually go and influence policy are rare in that if it's going to actually work on a policy initiative within a government. However, we have had expertise go work with either nonprofits or networks that are trying to affect policy change. So I think that might be a little too ambiguous, but that's something that we'd be happy to address one-on-one. But yeah, in summary, we look at all organization types, public, private, nonprofit, et cetera, in terms of how they are a part of the social impact ecosystem. And we do look at leading typically cross-border initiatives like the Sustainable Development Goals. But we don't go specifically into like community or country-specific policy issues because of the diversity of our members. However, on your own experteering project, you can elect to experteer with organizations that are trying to drive policy changes in either industries or locations that are most interesting to you.
And to add on to Mark's response right there, because every impact team is so unique in its makeup that there's actually a lot of room for adding new content and new learning outside of the established curriculum. And what I mean by this is that past teams have been able to express a particular interest in a specific industry or issue, and we actually welcome you to, and as well as give you the tools to invite industry leaders within specific issues that you care about to come to the team and have these discussions. And so in this way, there are room and space for addressing specific interests that you have that may not be a part of the existing curriculum. At the end of the day, the impact team experience is about capitalizing on the team's unique interests, unique experience. And so if the issue of policy is something that you're really interested in participating in and learning more about, like we encourage you to voice that in your impact team, tap into the network of that impact team, and see what interesting policy leaders we can bring to the conversation to that team. And with that right there, I think that looks like it was our last question. Oh, wait, I lied. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, sorry. That wasn't another question. This person just used the Q&A feature to thank us. And so I think that was our last question for today. As always, we're available to answer any questions afterwards. You can reach us at impactteams@movingworlds.org, or myself directly, or Mark or Cole. We'll share all of our email addresses at the end of the webinar with the recording. And with that, I'll pass the mic back to Mark for last words.
Perfect. No, Millie, I think you said it well. Thank you everybody to jumping in and to learning more about the program. Really want to echo Millie's sentiment. Happy to take additional questions one-on-one. We've had many people apply and then continue conversations with our team to explore if it's really the best fit or not once accepted in. So don't be shy with those questions. We love any and all feedback. And what I'll just maybe end with is just a thank you. At Moving Worlds, we remain so excited and enthused, and really our fuel is people like you that are looking for ways to use their professional skills to make a bigger impact. And that can be in their career, it can be in the things that they do on the side. And we just feel really honored and excited to be able to support people on, as Cole shared at the beginning of the presentation, what sometimes feels like a scary leap or something that, sometimes you're the only person maybe in your network looking to do this, and that can be a little isolating. And it's just so exciting to have a incredible community come together around these causes. So thank you so much for joining. Remember, application deadlines are by midnight Pacific Standard Time on February 2nd. So definitely get your applications in. Or if you're thinking about doing an impact team in the future, you can also express interest in future teams using the same application form. And if you ever have questions, just shoot us an email at impactteams@movingworlds.org. So with that, thank you all so much for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, and indeed evening, as we see that people really have joined from many, many different time zones. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and look forward to hearing from you all. Bye.